Okay, I think we're back. We may not be on center, but we're back. Checking 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That looks like it's working. Let's check here. It's just a little bit behind. And we'll see if it catches up. Yeah. Yep, there we go. It caught up. Okay. And we have audio. Okay. That looks like a winner. Hello, Bernard. Welcome. Glad to have you. All right, guys. So we got to do some testing here because we have we got a bunch of things going. So let's go back here and see, is our vMix call still working? vMix call. We had to drop vMix, so the call is probably not working. Let's disconnect. And yeah, let me call back in. Can I do that? Yeah, join call. And see if we come back. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that's working. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use the vMix call as the audio source when I leave this area. And you won't be able to see my lips, so the lip sync won't be an issue. supposedly. So I've got that set up on one Chrome tab in my browser. 2:50 a.m. Holy cow. That's dedication. All right, so I've got the vMix call set up in one Chrome tab, and I want to make sure that it continues when I switch to another Chrome tab. So I can see that it's still there. All right, very good. 7:50 in the evening. Glad to have you. So the question is, when I do a cut, because see, I'm going to use the vMix, what do you call that, web controller. So I've got the web controller set up so that I can control some shortcuts on my phone. So if I hit this one, it should change to a different camera shot and change the audio to my phone here. Let's see. Nope, it's not working. Not working. Maybe we need to refresh this because we restarted. Yeah, there we go. All right, there's the work table cut. And where is the other one? It's not in there, so let's try the work table cut. All right, so this should be the audio from my phone, but it's not. Okay, so it looked like I put in some shortcuts and some triggers, and they did not get saved when I logged. vMix just locked up for some reason. All right, so let's go to the main shot. That's this shot. We've got some triggers set up here. Bear with me if you don't mind. Let's go on transition in. We are going to do an audio off for number 10. That is the cell phone. So on transition in, we need to put this one at the top of the list. I know you can't see this, but I'm trying to get it done quickly. Need to put it at the top of the list so that it happens below some of the other triggers that are delayed. And then let's go back down here to the other two cameras on transition in. It's an audio on for number 10. Yes, and on transition in, it's an audio off for this desk here, which is number 24. There we go. Okay, got those saved. Let's just save that real quickly, and then we'll go to the other camera that represents the other scene that we're going to be looking at today. Audio on, number 10, add on, transition in, audio off, number 24. So I had all this set up, and then for some reason vMix froze. We'll save it again just in case. And hello, Bill. Glad to have you. All right, let's see. Did that take? Let's try again. Nope. We're getting some delay here in the camera. So something is amiss in my network. Oh, there it is. It just took a while to catch up. Okay. So let's check our shortcuts here real quickly. We're going to do it on the phone. And refresh that. So we're going to go to the work table, which should turn on the audio from my phone. All right, so that should turn this mic back on, but we're really late. That should be the work. All right, so let's go back here. If we leave that screen, does that turn the call off? It didn't just now. All right, so we're back to the main audio. Sorry about that. Yeah, the audio, I'm not sure what's going on with the audio. Yep. Thank you, Tommy. We're working on that. So this is the work table. This might even have better delay than the other one. This is the workshop. Now we're back to main. What is the delay here? It's actually a delay in the video. So let's check our statistics here and see that oh, I think I know what's happening. Okay. Bear with me just a second. This is 192.168.1.15. I've got two 4K cameras on my network, and I think that's what's bogging me down. 168.1.115. And so I'm going to take the one that's just a desktop shot of the PCs being built you saw just a second ago. Oh, that was a little scary. And we are going to set that for a different resolution. Let's go down to 1920 by 1080. Apply. We're going to reboot the camera. Is the camera rebooting? Yes. Okay. We're making progress. Making progress. We got to start the show soon, so we better make up. All right, so this should get the lip sync back better. Build back better. No, that's not it. Okay, let's see. So we'll go to this one, and we'll go to this one. Yeah, you do that. Okay, so how's this? Don't quote me on that. All right, let's see. We got all the ducks working like they should. So if you're looking at something, if you've got your captioning on, your captioning should be good. Have we lost our vMix call again? That might be the death knell to this. No, there it is. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just keep trying. We'll keep trying. We'll just keep on trying. We'll see if it works. Sync is good. All right. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Tommy. So this is going to be untested. What I'm trying to do, isn't that interesting? That's cool. I hadn't noticed that. That's actually the other side of my green screen. That's my workshop. And that's one of the workshop lights that we'll be using in just a second. So can I get myself underneath that? There we go. Yeah. Whatever. Whatever. Okay, let's get the show going. Here we go. Yeah, yeah. You ever see a hole and you just want to stick your finger through it? Yeah, there we go. So, welcome. Glad you're here. Glad I'm here. We, it's funny. I had this great idea for a small delay in the captioning. Yeah, the captioning will always have a delay. The question is the lip sync? Is the lip sync on? And is the squeak in my chair gone? Tried to do something different today. Not that different, but different enough. I've set up 2 work surfaces, and each one has its own camera, but the cameras don't have microphones. Could have done that, but I didn't. I didn't think about it for whatever reason. And I realized I need to have mics in those areas because this mic is not going to, this is my Audio Technica ATR or AT897. It's a shotgun mic. It's a 6-inch shotgun. I really like it. We've done a lot of treatments here in the studio to try to reduce the amount of reflection that the audio does so that it's as pristine as it can be. And I really, really like it. It works well. We're using the Waves NS1 noise filter on it. I think that's the only filter we're using on it today. Let's see, plugins. Yeah, is the NS1. And the NS1 is set at 50%. And that's basically to try to get rid of road noise, any air conditioner noise. And then I've got my PC actually sitting here, not even inside a case, but it's real quiet. The motherboard is quiet. The fans are quiet. The GTX 3070 Ti the fans are spinning, but you can't really hear them. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But anyway, the NS1 takes care of all that. But I didn't have audio in these 2 areas, one behind me, one in front of me. And I thought, well, I've got to have audios in those areas. So what I wanted to do was to set up a vMix call to do the audio. And I can see that this vMix call is timed out again. So we'll have to say, oh, no, did it come back? No, it doesn't look like it's come back. We'll disconnect it here, and we'll hope that when I kind of get it established, that it will stay established. But that's the problem with using, I'm trying to use the phone for 2 different things. Yeah, see, so I'm set again back here, but I also want to use this for a web controller. So we'll see if it'll hold out enough for me to do that. We'll see. And I'll never know. This is the great thing about it. So the specs on this streaming PC, that's a good question. What are the specs on this streaming PC? Let's go to, we'll go to Task Manager. That'll tell us real quickly. On the Performance tab, the CPU is a i9 10900 KF. So that is I believe, yeah, that's a 10-core processor. We've got, how much memory do we have here? 32 gigs of memory. We've got the GeForce RTX 3070. Sorry, it's a 3070, not a 3070 Ti. And then we've got a couple of solid state drives, a couple of Samsung solid state drives that we're using for C drive for operating system and software, and then D drive for recordings. So we're recording here. We're also streaming in 4K 60. We're using a PTZ Optics Move 4K 12x camera as the studio cam, which is great because it allows me to make all sorts of adjustments to it without having to leave my seat. And then the other two cameras that we'll be using in the different locations today is a Bird Dog P120, which is a 20x and full NDI camera, 1080p, 1080p 60, and another PTZ Optics Move 4K. It's a 20x that I had on the shelf, and so I threw it into service today, and that's what was giving me the lip sync problems earlier. Is NDI brought it in as a 4K camera, even though it's NDI HX. For some reason, that affected, I guess, the decoding of NDI HX is what slowed everything down. So we threw it back to 1080 from 4K, and that seemed to fix my lip sync issues. So that is the specs. Let's see. Do you do layaway? Yes, Tommy, we do layaway. We lay away whenever possible. So there. So we've got a fingers crossed on the well, I could do the camera switching from here. I'll do that. I won't try to go away from that screen, because that's liable to give me 100% success. So I'll switch the cameras from here, not with my phone. Sticks of RAM, 4 8s. I can look over at it right there, because it's not even in a case. It's just sitting out in the air. It probably has better cooling that way. I don't know. I pulled it out of a case because I'm getting ready to repurpose the case for something else. So I brought that out. So the premise with today's show is that we're going to build two PCs. And these PCs are in various stages of being built right now. So we're going to start with the one back here for the Baptist Church. They are getting a PC with a 4-port SDI capture card and 4 cameras, 3 of the new PTZ Optics Move SE line, which is basically their old G2 line tuned up. 3 of 20Xs there and 1 30X, and then they're getting a Super Joy. So they're getting the whole shooting match. The other system, which is a Seventh-day Adventist church out in Texas, is getting 2 cameras, PTZ Optics Move SE 220Xs, and a system. And we'll be putting their system into the case. And the Baptist Church PC that we're going to start with, I want to show you my startup procedure. I've already done step 1. Step 1 basically is assembling the components onto the motherboard. And that's when I take down all the serial numbers and make sure that, everything's compatible with everything else. And I'll show you that. Tommy removed the sides of his computer so he could watch the dust collect. You have dust in Tallahassee. I know, I've been there. Okay, so hello, Rich. You haven't missed anything. We're just starting, except the halo. Okay, so let's go back to oh, that's interesting. Let's close that one for a second, see what happens. Boom. Okay, we're good. So let's go back to the studio, and we're going to take along the camera as an audio source. And I'm going to switch it first and make sure that this works. So here we go. We're going to switch over to the studio. There's the studio, and let's take that off. And so I'm talking through the cell phone, and we actually need to back off the PTZ on that one just a little bit. So let's go back. I want you to be able to see the screen a little bit. There we go. We'll get that light out of the way. Okay, so let's give this a try. So we're moving back here to the studio. I'm taking my to the workshop. I'm taking my lemonade with me. And here I am with my, move that out of the way slightly. There we go. Oh, stay over there. Nope, doesn't look like he wants to stay over there, so let's move him up there. There we go. So I'm going to set this down. Hopefully there won't be a lot of desk noise with it. So what we've got here is we've got an i7 11700 KF CPU with two 8 GB sticks of RAM, a GeForce GTX 1660 Super. You really don't need a super duper. It helps to have a great big card, but for what we're doing for this build, this is really all that was required. And then we've got a generic 4-port SDI capture card, 4-port 1080-60. Nestled down here, we've got a 250 gigabyte Samsung solid state drive, and then over here a terabyte Samsung drive. Both of these M.2 NVMe's. I kind of put them apart. There's actually a space for a third one right here in the middle, but I thought it would kind of be trapped by these cards, and I wanted to have a lot of air, so I put it here. This particular motherboard, even though it's not set up for it, will also take a Wi-Fi adapter right here. I think the back plate actually has a couple of knockouts on it, so you could attach Wi-Fi. So what I want to do is go ahead and hook this guy up to power. So I'm going to use the big connector up here for the motherboard, and we connect it here for the CPU. Pop in, buddy. Troublesome. Well, that's because he doesn't go there. He goes on the GPU. Let's try it in the right place. By the way, I've got my power off. My power is a 750 watt power supply. This is the one for the CPU. That's going to go there. That will complete power, power, power. And then let's go ahead and I'm using just this passive hub right here. It's got some drivers and things here that I use periodically. It's also got a wireless connection for a keyboard and mouse. So I'm just going to will use one USB to get everything kind of plugged in. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug in the video here for the monitor. And obviously you see that change as soon as it realizes that there's a monitor on the other end. And then that's all I'm going to start with. So we'll go ahead and turn the power on. And then I'm just going to use my ballpoint pen as a starter here and jump two of the pins, and that'll get us started. And while we do that, we can go ahead and bring in keyboard and the mouse. And the little white button down here tells me that I have power. There we go. And it's booting to BIOS, but it wants to know some other things because this CPU has never been used before. So I'm going to say, it says new CPU installed. Please enter setup to configure your system. Blah, 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 blah. So let's go F1, and that's going to take us into the BIOS. This is a Asus Prime Z590V motherboard. It has the older BIOS. I don't know if you can see that right there, but it's got the 1017 BIOS. So the first thing we want to do is update the BIOS for it. So we're going to press F7 to get us into the more detailed menu here. How much of that can you guys see? No, not much. I'll come back and see if I can adjust the camera, but let's go ahead. We're going to go to the tool. We're going to look for the V drive, the V firmware update. Let's see, there it is. So we're there. So that's V590, Z590V, which is what we're looking for here. So I'm going to say that's what I want. Pressing the Enter key. It gives me a note about BitLocker recovery key. I'm not using that. You want to read this file? Yes, I do. And then it's going to say this is version 1601. Here with version 10.17, so I'm going to go with that one. There may be a newer one. I need to check. This one actually is May of last year, but it gives me the updates I need for this particular system. So again, not sure if you can see that, but it says that we're processing. This is going to take about 5 or sometimes 10 minutes to go. So we're going to leave that and we're going to go over to the other workstation and we'll go back to the PC and change over to another workstation. But in doing that, I do sound like I'm in a cave, don't I? Yeah, but that's because I'm a caveman. Let's see. Let's get this other camera. We'll switch to the other camera here, and then let's make an adjustment on the zoom. There we go. All right. So we'll go with that one for the moment. And I'll go over there, leave my lemonade away this time. And as you can see, here we are. So we've got a very similar setup here. Same CPU, same RAM, same graphics card, same capture card, same main drive, and then a little different brand, but it's still a terabyte, very fast. It's a Sabre. I like those too. I use those and the Sanyos kind of interchangeably. And I build them on the top of the box that they come in, and that allows me to move it around without having to worry about damaging the motherboard anyway. This is a Corsair. I'm just going to put you guys right here on the PC for a second. There we go. This is a Corsair. What is it? A 110R case. And I like it. It's really durable. It's very flexible. It's got good cable management. It's got good airflow. And so I've gone ahead and done some preliminary preparation of this case. For example, I went ahead and punched out the places here in the back, knockouts that we'll need. And before I do anything else, I need to find the back plate. Every PC gets its own little box of little goodies as it travels through the building process so that we don't lose anything with it. Ask me how I decided to do that. Yeah. And here's the back plate. There we go. Here's the back plate. And it's like opening up an old piece of taffy. And remember I was telling you about the Wi-Fi just a minute ago. Well, here on the back plate, you can see a couple of punch outs here for the Wi-Fi antenna. That would line up with the position of the Wi-Fi on the motherboard. So we're just going to press this into place in the hole in the back of the case. And it generally goes in pretty easily. Just a matter of bottom left, top left, bottom right, top right. And there we go. In. Right above that is a fan, which has a cable that gets in the way continually. So we'll try to get that out of the motherboard placement. But before we do any of that, we need to go ahead and put the power supply in. Let me go grab one off the shelf. And I'll let you walk back here with me. You can't see me, but trust me, I'm walking back to the shelf to grab a Corsair 750 watt power supply. 750 is a little bigger than what the system really needs, but as power supplies age, they tend to get a little less powerful. So one of the ways that we want to make sure this guy lives a long time, this PC lives a long time, is to give it a power supply that'll outlive anything else in the case. And in 8 years of building PCs for live streaming, it was 8 years, 9 years, excuse me. In 9 years of building PCs for live streaming, we've only had to replace one power supply all the time. That power supply, it was bad. Okay, so we got some goodies here We've got some screws, which we're going to need. We've got some zip ties, which we'll need. So we'll just go ahead and keep those handy so that we can use them. I like to do a lot of work tying up all the wires, power cables, etc., so that right there where we can get, so that I think it helps the airflow. Here's the manual for that, and that's going to go into our little box. That's the moisture absorber. And then that's the power cable. That's going to go into our little box so that we have everything we need. But this happens to be a fully modular power supply, so the cables aren't attached to the power supply. Let's pull it out. Nice little cushions here. Let's go back to the box. And then we'll pull this guy out of the tape. Everything goes back in the box for recycling. We'll take it apart in a minute, but later, but for right now, and we'll set it aside. So this power supply is cool because it's got all the different plug destinations here, and they're labeled nicely. Got a big one for the motherboard, which is actually 2, and then PCIe and CPU is these 4, and then the SATAs are those 4. And we're only going to use a couple of these, but I like this power supply because it doesn't give you cables you don't need. So let's get the razor knife out of the way, and we are going to sit this power supply in there. I also like using a plastic tabletop because it doesn't scratch anything. It gets scratched, but it doesn't scratch the PC or any of the parts here. So this is going to go in with the fan facing down because there's a vent at the bottom here. So I'm just going to slide that position here. And then we'll bring it forward and get the screw holes to match up, which of course they do. And then this is one of my favorite tools right here, a little electric screwdriver, which saves my wrists. And we'll go ahead and put that guy in, not quite all the way, but close enough to where it's still loose, where we can adjust if necessary. But since we didn't have to, now we'll put it in and torque it to spec. There, to my knowledge, there really isn't a torque spec, but I like to get it all the way in with the screwdriver and then give it another quarter twist. And let's see this line up. Yeah, there we are. So power supply is installed. That was the easy part of it. Now that it's installed in the case, and there you guys go. Can't you guys sit still in one place? Do you have to move around like that? I've shown this for them. Okay, so we got the power supply back here. The top part is where all the cables hook to on the power supply end, and then all the different various ends here on the PC side. So before we put into any of those cables in, let's go ahead and put the motherboard in some way where you can see best. So I've got my vent fan here. I need to get secured out of the way just for the minute. And I think that'll do it. There we go. And we'll get these wires pushed back here for the moment. This particular motherboard, this particular motherboard already has the standoffs built in, so the motherboard's just going to sit down on the standoffs. And the standoff here in the middle actually is slightly recessed, so when I get the motherboard into position, this one will actually pop into position and hold it while I can put the screws into the other side. So before we do anything else here, let's go ahead and take the accessory cards off. Clip right here, off the graphics card from jumping off. I'll set that guy just aside there. So now we're down to just the motherboard. I did wash my hands earlier. Don't use gloves. Frankly, I think gloves reduce some of the tactile feel on what I'm doing, and a lot of it is about feel. Okay, so this is the last time, hopefully, we touch the motherboard. And we're just going to drop it in here. Not really drop, but lower it in here. And we're doing it backwards. All this talk, I'm concentrating more on you than on my job. So let's try again. Obviously, that part right there is the business end of the motherboard. So we need to make sure that sticks where it should stick. And then we're just going to line it up with the holes back here and make sure that all our audio holes line up and all of our other connections line up. And then that little standoff in the middle that I was telling you about just a minute ago just popped down, so the motherboard is ready to be screwed down. So this is a good time for us to go back and check the other PC and see how the BIOS is looking. So let's switch back to that one for a second. And we can see that it's done. It's ready. The BIOS is updated, and it's ready for us to come back here and hit the F1 key again. That's going to take us back to the BIOS. There it is. And there's one other change I like to make here. We don't tweak the BIOS a whole lot, but we do want the RAM to run at full speed. So I'm going to go here to the XMP, which is kind of like the automatic RAM speed up device, and we'll enable that. And then we'll hit the F10 key to save, click OK, and it will reboot. And when it reboots to the BIOS, we know that the RAM has been speeded up to full speed. While it's getting ready to do that, we can take, I want to make sure we haven't lost audio here. Hold on a second. Check, 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 check. Yep, there we are. Okay. While that reboots to BIOS, we're going to pull out a little thumb drive here that has Windows 10 on it, and we'll get it ready to go back here. So as soon as this guy goes to BIOS, he does. We can see that our RAM speed is now what it should be. We're just going to simply power it off. As we power it off, we can plug the Windows 10 in. Can we see that right there? Yeah, right there. That's the Windows 10 plugged into the USB drive on the back. We'll turn the power on. We'll use our pen to jump start this little guy. And he is going to go through some clicks and buzzes and whirs. And at some point, he's going to ask me for some information because he wants to know, am I going to install Windows, and what Windows am I going to install? And the way I tell him that is I've got Windows 10 on this little card, the Windows 10 key. And so we will put that in, and that key will tell Windows which version to install. In this case, it'll be Windows 10 Pro. And we'll give it a second here. We'll see a little spinny thing right there. Yeah, there it is. That tells us that Windows 10 on the thumb drive is now being installed, at least to the point where it'll operate. And here it asks me what language do I want, what time, what keyboard method. All of this is going to be US for me. I'm just going to put the next key, and then it says install now. I could repair if I was having a problem and wanted to reinstall Windows. That would do that. So start up a setting, and the first thing it's going to ask me is for the license key. And let's put that in. I am notorious for getting this right the first time. Actually, no. It'll probably be worse because I'm talking to you, but we'll try. And, if you're off by one character, a miss is as good as a mile. Uh-oh. Did I go too many characters? I did. One too many characters. All right, so let's try the FJRC6. And let's see if we have a winner. And it'll take just a second. You can see the little spinny, the little hourglass. Oh, and we have a winner. Okay, so now we're going to accept the license terms. We're going to do a custom installation because we don't want Windows to tell us where it wants to install the OS. We want, well, it would have installed it in the right place. We've got two drives. Drive O is a 250, which really is 240 to 32.9. And then we've got a gig, which is really 931.5. We're going to put it on that drive. Now, this part where it says getting files ready for installation, right there and there, that takes a while. So while that's doing that, we'll go back to the other piece. See how building two PCs at once is really an efficient use of time. So let's go back to the other one. And we'll finish up here. And the other side, thanks to Jan, the installation of Windows apparently depends on the speed of your thumb drive. So we got a faster thumb drive and it sped up the process. Let's grab some screws here. Motherboard screws. And we will grab our trusty screwdriver. And this particular motherboard has 6 screws. So we're going to put center back first. And we'll use kind of the same method of installing those that we did with the power supply. And that is do it all the way till it goes in and stops, and then give it, in this case, just a little twist to get it tight. And 3 more. It's very exciting, I know. Kind of like watching paint dry, but without the liquid effect. 2 more. One of the other things I do like about this case is that I can get to all my motherboard screws with this screwdriver. Some cases, this lip kind of extends out to a point where you can't get as easy access. Now, I'm building these all the time, but the times I've had troubles, I've had to take my screwdriver apart, just use part of it in order to secure that down. Okay, so we've got the motherboard secured. First thing I do before I forget is go ahead and pull out this cable for this vent fan here in the back, the case fan. And I'm going to replace the little wire tie they used, little metal wire tie, with a plastic one. And I'll cut theirs off because I trust mine, because I put it on. And if there's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem of my own cause, my own doing. And I'll go ahead and trim this guy down to the right length. And he'll be the first thing I plug into the motherboard. Right here next, I don't think you can see it, but right here next to the 250 gig main drive is a little tiny connector for this fan. And this particular motherboard has 4 or 5 what they call chassis fan connectors. So we'll go ahead and plug it in here because it's convenient. There might be another one that would be as convenient. Sometimes they'll put them over here next to the power supply connection for the CPU, but in this case they did. All right, so we've got some other things that we want to connect up at some point. We can go ahead and do these, and I like to go ahead and do all my wiring before I put my components back in, so that way it gives me all the clear space I need. For example, this little guy right here, this is a USB 3 connector, and so we'll just bring him around here with a good little soft bend, plug him in right there. Boom. This guy right here, this is the panel connector that has the on-off switch, the reset switch, and the lights on the front of the case. So we'll get those on. and they go on in a particular order. If you know the order, you can just put them right on. But like me, it took me quite a while. I used to have to look them up in the manual all the time just to make sure I was getting them right. And once we get these in, especially these, because this is the on-off button, once we get these in and connected, we'll get a little hot glue on them to keep them from coming disconnected in travel, or just, when somebody moves it from point A to point B, don't want it to come loose. The others we haven't had problems with, but this has been the one that's occasionally given us an issue. So we got that plugged in. This last one right here is the audio for the audio jack on the case. So, and you can tell there's some holes that are filled in. I know you can't see that, but there's some holes that are filled in here. So it will only plug into the correct location here on the motherboard. All right, so we've got those plugged up. Let's go back and check our other PC and see where we're going with that one. And that one's done. So let's go back to that one. And we may run out of time here, but let's just see what we can do. So we're this far into Windows, and at this point, we get an opportunity to answer a few questions. We're in the US, so that's yes. Do we want to use US keyboard? Yes, we do. Do we want to add a second keyboard? Not right now. Are we connected to the internet? For me, this is important because I don't want to have to log into a Microsoft Windows account. So I'm just going to say I don't have internet, and I will continue with limited setup. So it's going to ask me for my name. In this case, I'm going to put in the serial number for this unit, which is ESP 23 08 09 01. And I'll make a note of that on the worksheet for this unit. 08 09 01. And as you can tell, the serial number is based on today's date, 08, and today is the 9th day, and 01 means it's the first one I built today and put operating system on. The other one that we did just a minute ago, I put the operating system on yesterday. Okay, so we're going to go next here. I'm going to leave the password blank. It says create a super memorable password. Well, there's nothing more memorable than blank. So we'll let the client do that. And then we've got some privacy settings. Basically, we don't want Windows to do anything with this computer. Leave it alone. Just leave it alone. So we'll do that. We're not going to do Cortina at this point. And then it's got a couple other buzzes and whirs here. And it says we're getting everything ready for you. And then this might take several minutes. Don't turn off your PC. It might not. It might just come right back just like that. Just like that. Oh well, it didn't work this time, but it worked last time. And what happens is the next step in this part, for me anyway, is to plug in Ethernet. But since I told it that I didn't have Ethernet, it basically said, okay, well, if you don't have internet access, you don't need us to enable the internet port. So it's not going to enable the internet port normally. So that's why I've got this CD drive right here. Actually, it's a DVD drive, but it'll work. And I've got a DVD up here in my list of DVDs for the motherboard chipset. There we go. All right, so it has finished its job right there. It says, do you want to browse the web with Microsoft Edge? Maybe later. Would you like to download and install Armory Crate? No, because that interferes with vMix. So I'm going to say no to that. And then I can plug in my internet right here. I can plug in this Ethernet cable. But I'm not going to get any internet right here until I download and install the drivers off this drive. So in order to do that, I have to turn the PC off and connect this drive. I didn't want to connect it before because then the BIOS would be looking to this drive in order to install whatever it wanted to install, Windows or the operating system or whatever. And I can turn that off, but it's just an extra step to go turn it off. So I'll just leave it disconnected and then plug it in. It's not a hot swap type device. It's not set up for that. So I do have to turn the system off. We'll wait for it to boot, and then we'll put the CD in. We wait for it to boot because, again, we don't want it to try to look on this drive to find something to boot with. So now that it's booted, we can pop it in. And again, you can tell right down here, the little globe tells us we don't have internet access. It wants us to pay attention to OneDrive, but we don't want to pay attention to OneDrive. And you can hear the DVD kind of ramping up there. And we will tell it, yes, go ahead and get that started. And while this starts and does its thing, we've got to answer a couple of questions here. But once we do, we can go back and work on the other machine, or we can continue to do some prep work on this machine. And I think that's what I want to do. And we'll kind of close out this video. So I do want to go into the drivers here, and I want to tell it I don't want Norton security. All the rest of these are for the motherboard or the Chrome browser, which I want. But I don't want Norton because I don't want anything to slow this PC down because it's going to be used as a streaming PC. Now, they want to make sure that I include Google as my default browser, which is kind of funny because I say yes, but it still doesn't make it my default driver. My default browser. I still have to go in and enable that later. The number of reboots is 1. Install now, yes. So it's going to go through its process. While it's going through its process, I'm going to go through my process. And I don't know if you can see the taskbar down here at the bottom, but there are things like email. We're going to right click that, we're going to unpin it. There's Microsoft Store. We're going to unpin it. There's Edge. We're going to unpin it. We're just going to right click the taskbar. We're going to get rid of the task view button, right click again. We're going to go to news and interests and turn that off. We're going to right click again and go to search, turn that off, so that everything is as simple as possible down here at the bottom. Don't want to confuse our folks with things they don't need. We're going to take up here in the top left corner, don't know if you can see that, maybe you can, but we've got some things on the desktop, including Google Chrome. I'm going to drag that down to the taskbar down here. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and open up. There we are. And I'm going to right click these tiles and basically take those away. Those are nothing that. And then I'll come over to the list of programs and I'm going to take out some programs like 3D Viewer, uninstall it. It's gone. Calculator, uninstall. It's gone. And I think I can do the same thing with calendar. Yeah, there we go. And the idea is that I want to strip this PC down for whatever possible use it's going to get, which in this case is live streaming. Groove music, it's gone. We don't want extra stuff. Now, I know that I can't get rid of help, can't get rid of Cortina. I've tried that in the past. Solitaire connection, sorry, it's gone. It doesn't make PC run faster, it makes it run slow. Mixed reality portal, gone. Movies and TV, gone. Doesn't have anything to do with live streaming. Office, gone. OneDrive. Now we're going to skip OneDrive for just a second. Then we'll come back to OneDrive. We say uninstall, and it wants to take us to the old Windows uninstall system. So we're going to click OneDrive there and uninstall it. It's going to want to have permission to do this. So we'll give it permission. It will take just a second to get permission. because it's doing other things in the background. There we go. And it's gone. Take it out. Now let's go back to our menu here. We left off at Microsoft Store. We can't get rid of that. Paint 3D. Somebody might need Paint 3D. So you can see the PC is restarting to install some of the drivers and firmware that it just downloaded from the DVD. So this will take just a second. And then we're back to Windows, and it'll finish its job. Meanwhile, we can finish our job. Maps we can't get rid of. Paint 3D we can get rid of. But somebody might need a quick graphic program there. People and photos we can't get rid of. Realtek audio console we need. Settings we need. Skype we don't need, so we're going to get rid of that. Snip and sketch we might need. Sticky notes we might need. Tips we won't need. We'll get rid of that. Voice recorder we won't need. That. Weather. We get rid of weather. All this stuff just slows the PC down. Xbox, we get rid of that. For some reason, we can't get rid of the Xbox game bar. It just won't go away. So now that we've done all that, we can see that we're up to 73% complete on this. We're getting there. We'll go in task. Sys tray doesn't really show us anything yet. We do want to adjust time. So let's go date time. We can't set it automatically because we're not connected to the internet. But let's go ahead and put it on Eastern time. It'll be down here. And again, we're not connected to the internet, so we can't do a sync. So we'll come back and do a sync in just a minute. Although we should be able to sync up here shortly. Yeah, we're 80% complete, and in just a minute it's going to come on and ask us if we want this guide to be used on other networks, and that's when we know that we're connected to the internet. Oh my gosh, this does take longer than I thought. I was like, yeah, we could just pop through this and we'll show, no problem. So we'll let that guy do its thing, and it'll continue to do its thing, and we'll come back to the main studio. All right, so now we're back. And that is that's part of the process. It's not the whole process. It's part of the process that we do when we build a PC. Lots of little things to check, a lot of details, things that things that I knew going into this years ago, but also things that have changed since then, things I've discovered that makes things go faster. For example, we're going to get into the settings of the PC in just a minute, and we're going to tell it speed yourself up. I know Windows has got you throttled, but speed yourself up. We're not worried about saving, one watt. We're going to go ahead and use those watts because we want to have the fastest speed we can do. We would do the same thing with the NVIDIA drivers, and we'll install the NVIDIA driver. We'll install vMix, of course. We install a remote desktop access software so that we can get into the system if we need to help you. We always give folks 3 hours of installation assistance when it comes time to set the PC up. And if they don't use all that time, getting everything plugged in and done correctly, we can also use it to help them get set up and their vMix preset. We include a vMix preset, but they can always modify that and add to it. And so we provide them with 3 hours worth of assistance. They can pay for more, but 3 hours comes with the PC. So, yeah. So that's it. We might continue this. We probably won't pick up where we left off next time or I could record it. Well, let me think about that. that. Let's close out the show part. We'll go to the post show and we'll be right back. Oh, hold on. I thought I had a button for that. Oh, well. Yes, I do have a button for that. It's called the outro button. Okay. Well, I can see that Rich is wise to my tricks of yeah, all the high-tech tricks that we use. it was just a CD drive. But there you go. It wasn't an 8-track. It could have been an 8-track, but sometimes old school is too old. There you go. Thank you, Tommy. Merle, I didn't see you pop in. Yes, indeed. Standard definition was just fine. I remember being one of those folks, and Merle, you and I probably had this conversation. You know, why do you need to have anything clearer than standard definition? Holy cow. Yep. So let's see. What else did I miss here? Not much. Not much. Yeah, they've got those little body cameras you can mount. I thought about getting one of those for my GoPro, but you know, it's not a broadcast camera, so I didn't get there. Yep. So yeah. So I hope you got a little bit of the point of how I'm doing some of these things and why I'm doing some of them. The idea is to number one, it's not my first rodeo. So if you're putting something together, you need to have somebody that's done it before that's going to show you some of the tricks. And number two, I use every trick. I use every trick. The idea is that this is not a family car. This is not the grocery getter. You know, this is not what we drop the kids off at school in. This is a racing car. This is a dragster. This is a Formula One car. There is nothing on it that's not committed to speed, even though, you know, we may be a little throttled back because we're using an RTX 1660 Super graphics card. That's plenty for what we need to do in this situation. Any more would not add value to the system. It would add cost, but it wouldn't add value. And the idea is that we want to give folks all the value they need to do the job they need and not give them more that doesn't benefit them in any. I mean, yes, if we had a faster processor in there and not even more RAM, vMix only needs 16 RAM. I put 32 in mine just in case I do some video editing. But a faster processor and a faster graphics card if we were going to do more cameras. But these folks are going to max out at 4. And frankly, I don't know that they'll ever use, in the case of the one church that's getting 4 cameras, I don't know that they'll use all 4 of them all the time. My guess is they'll have 1 or 2 cameras that'll be their go-to cameras, and then, you know, 1 or 2 cameras that'll be their occasional use cameras for special events or something like that. But they wanted to go ahead and get the whole shooting match up front, and I get that. Let's see. Rich wants to know, what wattage power supply are you using with the hefty NVIDIA cards? Yeah, the bigger ones I'll use 1,000 watts on. I haven't ever built, well, I built one system that I put a 1,200 watt power supply in, simply because it was an X299 system. We were using that 18 core CPU, and we had 2 of the DeckLink quad 2 cards. So it was a 16 camera system. But again, they weren't planning on using all 16. I think they wanted 12 or 13, but they wanted the others, just in case, or to use for outputs. And at some point, cooling becomes an issue. When you get too many heat producing devices in there, you need to add some liquid cooling to the PC. And we do that, but we try to use air whenever possible because I think it makes the systems more durable. There's less to go wrong so far as connections and fittings and pumps and things like that. There's less to go wrong with an air system. Europe. Well, what time are we getting to? Almost 4 o'clock. I am going to cut you guys loose. I'm going to go back to work on these little rascals. Yes, I am. And I tell you what, I'm going to finish them up, but I will let you see next week what I did that finished these guys up. How about that? All right. Deal? Deal? Deal. All right. Catch you later.